Hello and welcome to another episode of No Load Time. My name is Obed Velez, and with me
Oh,
is
you
the
guys
most
have
interesting man in the world, Joel Young.
he pulled it together. Yeah.
Pulled it together.
You guys have no idea the things we were laughing about. Oh, today's been a great day.
It's my fault because I had already recouped and then I messed it up while the intro was rolling.
You just said all I had to say was like two things, and that was it. Oh gosh, jeez. Well,
Uh,
it's good to be with you for another
hey,
episode, man. Last week
yeah,
was a fun one. Another good one we got planned for today. Is if you're watching on the video version, you see the title is "The State of Gaming." We thought it would be an important episode to do it. We've got
yeah,
plenty of good stuff to cover today.
yeah. There's quite a few things. I don't have anything on my end, dude. If you want to jump in, we can jump into I guess Empire and X-Men, and then we
Yeah, let's
can
do those.
move forward. All right, cool. All right, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing great. I mean, I'm starting to be a little more fresh and we're excited. As we mentioned like last week, same thing. Don't worry, there's gonna be some more upgrades coming to the show this summer, so stay tuned. But no, it's been well otherwise.
Cool. Yep. And thank you guys again for tuning in. Make sure to check out our Patreon, and we really do appreciate it. All right, Joel. So I did get the opportunity to actually go back and watch Tales of the Empire. I think we're probably on the same boat on this one.
Yeah.
I have I feel a disturbance in the force.
Mm.
Um, 3 episodes were really boring, and 3 episodes were okay interesting. Like
Mm.
this is a solid like six.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
Yeah.
versus like the Tales of the Jedi
Oh,
was like a 9. It was real good. Um, Kind of disappointed that they only focused on two characters, and there's like inconsistent like big inconsistencies, timeline wise and all that. So those first 3 episodes that were focused on Morgan Elsbeth, the first half of that first episode was real good, and then it just was just a slog. It was just not interesting. It was just not interesting, and it's a shame, right? Because we're big proponents of Dave Filoni and the Clone Wars and all that. So kind of disappointing. It just didn't click. Maybe she
yeah.
wasn't the right character. Maybe you could have done one episode on her, right? Kind of like mixing the second and the third episodes. You could have mixed them up together and giving us just one episode, and do something else with other characters. I feel like that should have been better. Um, I just don't. They just didn't hit for me, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately.
I agree with you. I think it's the choice of characters just overall that is what kind of didn't make it as great and powerful as maybe the other ones are. Because literally, like you said it, in Tales of the Jedi was really good. I believe it was only two characters that were the main highlights because if I remember right, I think it was just Dooku and Ahsoka. I don't remember in between any other being the
Right.
main storylines that you're following. Other main characters show up.
Right, but there's other characters that show up,
Right.
and there's like they do play a significant role
No,
in
no, for
in
sure.
yeah, right,
For sure. But
like
my point is like
Yaddle and
just
all
on
that,
the
right,
pillars on the back of
right,
Count Dooku and on the back of Ahsoka, of
right,
course it's gonna be like those are
yeah,
strong characters
totally,
like you do there. You're trying to build an empire show on Morgan Elsbeth, a fairly new character, and a fairly newer character in Beresovsky, but not new, but we've not seen a
right.
lot of her, I should say. Um, Interesting choices, but there's so many amazing characters in the Empire to have chosen from that it does kind of does kind of make you scratch your head.
Dude,
And
like
anyone who defends the
yeah,
show, Obed, like, and I'm not saying I'm against the show. I actually still found it to be quite entertaining, to be honest with you. But even I have to admit, with the way I enjoyed it, it's kind of forgettable. I think there's a lot of people who would watch it, and there's maybe specific moments, which is like anything. But for a guy that really loves Star Wars, it was one of the more forgettable ones where Tales of
Right.
the Jedi. I didn't I wanted to go back and rewatch, and I did end up rewatching a couple of them, but like it's very vivid, stuck in your mind because of the emotions and the beats that are hitting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's questions that I have about this one, but still,
Yeah. I just don't think that the choice of characters are great. Also, the way that the Tales of the Jedi told the story, mixing it up in between episodes, was
hmm
better than this one. It just
hmm
didn't
I
hit.
agree.
I think the Barris Offie thing was great. I think the following her and and she becoming an inquisitor, but not because she really hated the Jedi, right? But because she was like, well, I mean, at least they're letting me live, right? So might as well join them. Um, that was interesting. That was pretty good. I think those first two episodes were really good, but then I do have There's glaring problems with that third episode. Um, because why is she older than Lynn? Why is she older than Lynn in that episode? Why is
The
Ben?
dark side is a path to many abilities some might
No.
consider to be unnatural.
Mm,
That's my only. I don't even.
oh
I
my,
can't defend it more than that. Like that's literally the only answer I can give. But it doesn't
bro.
make sense. Why does she look the same? And then this
Right.
lady's like, I'm in the
It was like
force
10
on the
years
light
later,
side, and it
Barris
looks like,
is in her 20s, and she looks like in her 50s.
yeah,
It's nuts, right?
yeah,
So like that to me does, and then the lady looks the same. Lynn looked the
right.
same. So that didn't make sense to me. Um, her dying was kind of like a letdown too. It was like, okay, maybe we'll see her. Oh no. So there's no build up with those first three episodes, and then a letdown of an ending on
Mm.
the Barris Offie thing. I just don't think it was good, man. It's like you know, it's a 6. I haven't watched any like reviews or anything on it.
Yeah, me either.
I did see that Theory put out a video, and he's like, "Oh, I'm angry." I was like, "Oh, dang it!" It's like, wonder what they did. I was like, "Oh yeah, just, they made it not good." So,
Yeah.
they had a really good opportunity, man, to give us some really good stories, and they didn't. So very disappointed. Unlike X-Men '97.
Ooh.
Um, Big spoiler banner again, guys. If you go watch this show, please, don't, please do. Not saying that because I'm wearing a Marvel shirt, right? Um, like straight up, this is probably like if you were on the fence about recent Marvel stuff, um, the this show will ease your troubles. This is very very good. I you know 9.5 could have been a 10, could have been a 10. 9.5. There's no like big issues with it
hmm hmm
really. Not from a character or a a storytelling sense. um like it's as close as perfect as you can get, in my opinion. It's absolutely fantastic. This episode was crazy. I think I saw some people complaining about this episode being. I was like, oh, but the other, like the previous episode was better. Like I didn't like this was the worst episode. I was like, no, the Mojo
What?
episode was the worst. Like everyone was like, no, the Mojo one. So it was like we were all in agreement. Um, I think it's that the people want it a lot more, and I think that they did enough. They did
They went
plenty.
crazy.
They
Are you
did
kidding
plenty.
me?
Right.
What more do you want?
Right. Right. Um, yeah, man, the whole Xavier Magneto struggle was really good. Man, this show's sweaty, and I love it. I love it. This is like not for the not for the. It's good enough for the casuals, right? But for the ones that are in the know, that were back, like, for us that fought the fight back in the day, right?
Hmm.
And new fans, right?
Yeah. Mm.
Of the OG X Men show and the comics, dude, this is just like insane with the callbacks, and not only the callbacks but the Easter eggs, and um, man, it's just like so good, so freaking good. Yeah, I told Phoenix. Yeah, we called it. Like Phoenix is gonna be back because that's the only way that they can get around, Bastion. So, yeah, Phoenix came back for a bit just to get him out of a pickle, basically. Um, and then Bastion tried to hurl Asteroid M to Earth, and yeah, and then we get to see, I guess, half of the Avengers. So, yeah. Um, No, very good. Like overall, very very good. I'm glad that they didn't they completely incapacitated Logan, which is now interesting based on the ending. We didn't see Logan. Where is he? Where he end up at? Right.
Right.
It could be like part of those pieces that, hey, like if you know, you know, right? I don't want to spoil it, right?
I know. I
Because
know.
if you know, right, what
Yeah.
happens to the adamantium and how he gets it back, right? So I don't want to spoil it, but it does tie very tight to the overall ending and the mid credit for the show. So,
Yeah.
um, absolutely fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to the next seasons, you
Right. Right.
know.
Right. Right. Right.
And if they tie it up with the movies, like, dude, when they went crazy at the end, right? And it's like, oh, well, it's not a matter of where but when. It's like, oh, dang, 2026 or whatever the time is at Marvel. That way, maybe Logan's with Deadpool. Who knows, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So we don't, because we don't know. We didn't see him at the end. We don't know what happened with him. Um, we didn't see. Do we? Oh yeah, that's right. Sunspot and Jubilee went down back to Earth, so they stayed behind. But Jean and Scott went to the future. Uh, Rogue, Beast, Magneto, Nightcrawler went back to Egypt, uh, and met and Summoner. So good stuff, bro. This is phenomenal. I'll take it because you're gonna. I know that you got. I know you have tons to talk about.
Oh my goodness. I instantly had to fire off messages to people. I didn't shoot you with one because I wanted to wait for this for we although I knew we have kindred spirits when it comes to Marvel. We know. Like look, this is one of the best things I have seen for Marvel in years. I want to digest it more. I'm going to watch this a second time very soon, like within the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm going to be watching
Binge
this
it.
finale again because I need to.
I watched it. I watched it twice.
Oh, dude, it is. I I have not
Yeah.
felt that excited and that satisfied about an ending of a show in a long time. I've been happy and enjoyed, but there's always that sense of could have done this better, should have done that, whatever. That was
Right.
not the feeling I had for this. Like I don't know if I've said it on the show before, but the only complaint, this is not a complaint necessarily that the show did something wrong. It's a preference thing. So I wanted to clarify that. This is just a Joel thing, not necessarily X-Men's wrong for this kind of thing. But like when I look at the show as a whole, sometimes for me, the relationship stuff maybe took a little bit too much precedence than I would have liked it to have been, but it never overtook the show. Like it didn't. Oh,
Right.
because I've seen things before where they take things like this and it's almost hijacks the show. Where like they could have done like the Scott and Jean stuff. Like it could have gone very differently, and they reeled it in right where it could have gone a little too off the wall. The same thing with Professor Xavier and like his like marriage thing. Like that could have gone very very differently. And even the Rogue and Magneto thing like could have gone very differently, and Gambit and whatever, right? And the whole love triangle, whatever. Some of that stuff that's just a Joel Young preference thing that sometimes I was like, man, everybody's in a relationship. Like, I just want to see them. I just want to see what's going to happen next week. But that's just the main thing. Overall, with the show, I think um, they hit off on all the beats. They did things that I didn't expect. I kept saying to people that I was watching with, of like, hey, if they have Apocalypse, that would probably be the next thing to do. That would probably be the next story to go to. Yes, they did have Apocalypse before in the original animated
Right.
thing. They also had the Dark Phoenix thing a little bit. there's hints of all of that. Like
Right.
they come straight up are telling you, we're going back to these things that you saw before, but we're doing it with, the new flavor that we have kind
Yeah.
of with this revitalization or revelation of the show.
More
So
accurate to the comics and more
correct.
callbacks to the comics too. So
Correct. I'm okay with you repeating storylines if you're gonna get it in a way that's really really beautiful because of the technology behind it, the art behind it, the deeper understanding of the lore and what have you. Just if it's good, it's good. Um, and Subhan Nur, I'm glad that is gonna be the main villain of the next season. Time travel. You have the Bishop thing. Did you catch the whole thing of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch?
yeah, they were in the
No
boat.
one
They were in the boat, but then on the wall they were off world.
off world.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Did you also hear that supposedly the creators did ask, can they put Deadpool in it? And they said no for that finale. So that's what gives me a hesitation is sometimes you would say no because, hey, we're
Right.
gonna try and tie it into some live action thing. Or is it no because they didn't want to tie it into the live action and let it live its own? I don't feel an absolute that it's connected to the live action stuff personally. I think people might be disappointed if they have too much of an expectation of it. I
Right.
don't want people to get that. I've been there as a fan, but I wouldn't count it out. Like there's definitely a real possibility because as I've been telling you, not to make this a Deadpool conversation, but like I think Deadpool's gonna get the multiverse better than Doctor Strange did,
Oh, totally.
better the Flash and these other things.
But on Flash. I mean,
I
every time
know.
you say that, I just remember the awful CG and the
Yeah.
Speed Force thing. Yeah, man. All the cameos in this episode were great.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's like cameos sprinkled around. Really good lines here and there. Did you catch the Sue Storm cameo?
I did.
Yeah, she
I
was
did,
she
dude.
was she
She
was
was
there.
straight up there.
She was there. You just didn't see her. Ow! He didn't care. I got you, bro. I got you.
I don't know why I thought you were saying Mary Jane when you said Sue Storm.
Oh, Mary
I
Jane.
don't know why. That was awesome. Peter and MJ watching
And,
the
and
TV.
Flash Thompson going like this on the back. That was really good. That was really good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, man, so good. This show. I'm very much looking forward to what's next, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be straight up with you. Like I would love them. I would love for them to revisit X-Men with a fresh look, right? Movie wise. But if we don't get it, like this is like just keep giving us
They're
this.
gonna do
right?
mutants. They're definitely
They
gonna
gotta,
do
they
mutants.
gotta, yeah.
But I'm glad they're taking their time because this is setting such a high precedence
It's
that the
cooking,
bar
right?
has
It's
been raised.
yeah, it's
And
the slow
I like
cooker.
that. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, yeah. Good stuff, man. I'm very very excited for what the
Yeah.
future holds. And then I keep remembering that there's a PlayStation game coming out, a Wolverine PlayStation game that
Oh my gosh, I
may
forgot
tie
about
into
that. The
you forgot
Insomniac
yeah,
thing.
Insomniac game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's probably gonna be like next year. So
You think it's next year? I thought it was gonna be like 2026.
oh no, dude, that thing needs to come
That's
out
sooner?
soon. Yeah,
I hope it's sooner.
yeah.
I'm ready for it now.
Well, they may stretch the release with Spider-Man DLC because Spider-Man's supposed to be getting like a ton of stuff, and they haven't released anything like Spider-Man 2. So they could
Looking
pad
up
it out.
any
Yeah.
rumors on this.
Well, it could be.
Oh.
So the rumor that what I heard, and okay, let's go ahead and jump in right into the state of gaming 2024.
This is it.
So what I've heard is that they're going to do like a Miles like release with Venom. So release like a Venom game, and do it kind of like a like a point five, kind of like what Miles was not a
Right.
super grindy or nothing like that, nothing too
Easy
long,
playthrough.
right? Exactly. With the release of the Pro, or whenever the Pro comes out.
Oh, so good.
So
Oh man.
so
They're gonna
that's
try and make me buy a pro.
yeah. Well, it's probably
Oh,
gonna be on the regular one too,
oh, I
but
know,
now you get a
but
Pro, yeah,
I know
right.
you put anything Spidey and
Yeah, yeah.
Obed.
No, you got no money. You got no
Obed.
money.
Obed.
So yeah, man. That's a prediction that I have, right? That may or may not happen, but yeah, we wanted to take a moment and go through, I guess, some of the news that have been happening for the last few weeks. We kind of put something together, and we're just gonna talk about it. We did talk about Xbox last week, and you know, I there's more Xbox news for this week, but and there's good news, kinda, but there's also very concerning news about
Yeah.
Xbox. Um, Before we jump into that, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Joe. I haven't been excited about an Assassin's Creed game ever, sir. And I
Whoa.
and I think this is the one for me.
You're ready.
I'm ready. I'm
Oh,
ready.
let's go.
I'm ready, sir. I think this is the one. This game looks real good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're saying it's pretty big, right? It's big as Origins, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
And I know, guys. I know that some of the stuff that they showed is not period accurate, and like there's you know inconsistencies and whatnot, and there are in every Assassin's Creed, right? These things are
100%.
like pseudo historical. They try to make it as close as possible, but come on, we weren't there, so who knows?
Correct.
And I mean, I can tell you like straight up, right? Um, the fact that Black Flag, you don't stop in PR in Black Flag, it's a red flag. that
It's
that
a
that is
red flag.
that is not historically accurate, right? Like there's a couple towns in PR. It's like, yo, like this dudes were like
Spaniards showed
actually,
up.
yeah. Well, the pirates were actually like burying treasure in the coast, and they were like sneaking
Mm.
through like a lighthouse, and there's like several towns that have like you know pirate like backstory. It's like, oh, this pirate, he actually lived here. It was like
Oh,
one of
wow.
the most popular pirates in the Caribbean, right? And the fact that you don't go to PR in Black Flag, to me, I was like, oh man, this is like kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but just putting that aside, right? Yeah, I think it looks real good. We probably need to see uh, more of a gameplay demo. This was
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
almost a concept trailer for it. But Ubisoft coming out with two big games this year. We got that, and we got Outlaws. So
Right. Right.
um, I think they're
Good for them.
yeah, good for them. Right, they're putting out their stuff. They haven't laid anyone off. They haven't closed any studios. They're doing their
Obed's
thing.
taking shots.
Ubisoft over there. Hey, you
Ooh.
can dunk on Ubisoft all you want, right? Because it's
Nah,
like the
they're
same, but
they're
they're
trying.
pretty. They're right, and I agree. Like some of the criticism, right? Because we gotta be fair, right?
Yeah.
Some of the criticism, like having to log in into their accounts when you try to
Oh
play again,
yeah.
like all that stuff, like it's completely unnecessary. The DLC packs are ridiculous, but at the same time, right? These guys are not laying people off, and
Yep. They're making
they're
games.
making money. They're well managed, right? We don't hear anything crazy about
It's
Ubisoft. There was
true.
I'm just saying, man.
Yep.
To some extent, like EA has been pretty quiet too for the longest time. The worst company in America based
Ooh.
on surveys. For a couple
Yeah.
of years. Um, and I know they were in the news this week because they said that they were wanted to include like dynamic ads in games, which is fine if it's not intrusive. Like, I don't care. But I get it, right? If you pay $60, $70 for a game,
Oh yeah.
like you don't want a huge like Pepsi ad on it, and it's like it's I that's fine, right? Um, but I can see where in some other games like their sports games that could be a good thing because you can keep updating these ads that come up on their NASCAR and golf and all the other stuff they do, right? Um, and that's whatever. but even EA, right? They haven't come out and like they haven't closed any more studios. Like I know that before the CEO changed, um, they closed what Visceral. They closed a couple of the good studios,
Right.
um, and that was unfortunate. EA went through a change phase, and I think that right now, for the last, if you go back ever since like probably since Fallen Order was released, EA has been, you know,
Yep.
I haven't heard anything egregious about it, right? It's
Yep.
been fine. Um, so, good for them, right? Good for the ones that can actually manage not to, you know, make people angry. Ubisoft, EA, I know that.
Wasn't there rumors at one time of PlayStation acquiring Ubisoft, like Sony?
There were,
There
yeah,
were at one time.
yeah, there were. I don't know. I think Ubisoft it's pretty big, and
Yeah.
again, based on what's going on at Xbox, I don't think that Sony's interested in,
Yeah.
in going that route. If anything, what's going on at Xbox has shown us that just buying everything doesn't really work.
No, it
Like,
doesn't make you better.
doesn't make you the winner, right? Just because you
Nope.
want everything doesn't make you better, doesn't make you the winner. And, it's an unfortunate state where they're at right now. But just going back to Japanese companies, Japanese companies are thriving. Capcom doing really well. Sega doing really well. Sega coming out and saying, "Yeah, we have a plan, and you're gonna get a Sonic and a Persona in some shape or
Yeah.
form every year for the foreseeable future." And that's that they sell, and that's great. That's their thing. They'll run with it, and Sega's making money right now, and that's what's important to them. They don't go too crazy on their budgets. They're well managed, and they made strategic acquisitions with like Atlas and some of the other stuff that they bought in the last I don't know what 10 years. So they've been very smart managing that company. So I think Sega's doing really well. Sega's in a really, really good spot. Capcom again, it's very very good spot. They can do whatever they want, and they haven't missed in a while.
Yeah.
So they're in good shape. Konami and they're trying to do their thing. There's still a lot of like ill will towards Konami, but I think they're starting to loosen up a little bit. I think they're really holding back on budgets, and from what we've seen, I'm a little bit concerned about the Metal Gear 3 remake,
Mm.
just because we haven't really seen anything. That thing's supposed to be out this year,
Oh
and
yeah. You think
and,
it's gonna be
and
delayed then?
yeah, and we really haven't seen anything. So, um, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about that, and I know that they're in a spot that they really don't want to spend a lot of money making these games,
Yeah.
and I get it, right? It's a risk, but when it comes to like a franchise like Metal Gear, you should have taken the risk,
Yeah.
right? Um, Nintendo, they're doing their thing, man. They're doing really really well. They're they're making a ton of money, and they basically got the best selling console ever on the Switch. It may surpass the PS2 by the end of the year, and then they're really good. Like they're doing their thing, right? The operational costs are down, are low, and revenue is high, and it's well managed all around. Everyone's getting races, and everyone's happy, right? They're doing their thing. They don't bother anyone except except people that mess with their IPs.
Pretty much.
Which again, it's to their detriment, right? It's they're a little bit too strict. Um,
Mm.
there's a lot of goodwill towards Nintendo, and they keep shutting it down
Hmm.
with the MCA takedowns. How long have we been asking? It's like, yo, Nintendo, put all your music on Spotify, because
I know.
like, come on, like
That'd be
this
easy
is
money for them.
right. Like Square Enix put their like basically everything on Spotify. It's great. You go to the
Yeah.
Square Enix channel and they have everything. Sega, dude. Like, dude, I drive my daughter to school in the
Yeah.
mornings, and I have a Sega channel on Spotify, and
Oh,
you get
nice.
like old arcades, like Outrun and Afterburner, and then you get newer stuff like PSO and the new Sonic like Frontiers. It's great, dude. And Nintendo's like, yo, you can do this. You're gonna have like that Mario Galaxy soundtrack that is like it's a freaking masterpiece, and you're not doing anything with it.
Right, right, right.
So, to their detriment, it's like they can loosen up a little bit, right? They're trying to be the Disney of gaming. I think they're doing an even better job at Disney than managing their company. But they should go. They can loosen up a little bit if you ask me. Um, and yeah, the new Switch coming out. Specs are out there, kind of. Um, it seems like it's gonna be a decent console, not a gigantic leap forward when it comes
Yeah,
to graphics.
yeah.
But it'll get them another good run of like 6-7 years of a solid console. So yeah. Before I keep going to Square Enix, sir, any other observations that you want to point out so far?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would hark on the same drums you were talking about. I think we've talked to Najim about specifically Microsoft, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about some things coming up here, some articles, some stuff. But like, I think of like Indiana Jones for an example, and like that's like one of the games that like looks really good. I don't have to buy an Xbox for. What was the studio behind that one? Bethesda? No,
It's a Bethesda. It's one of the Bethesda
Bethesda.
teams.
One of the
Yeah,
Bethesda
yeah.
teams.
Machine Games,
Right. Right.
I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like you were just talking about Insomniac and obviously the incredible work they've done on Spider-Man, and if they're gonna have that Venom filler, I'll call it that, a filler game in between that and Spider-Man 3. Um, like that's pretty legit. Looking at just the state overall of different developers and what they've got going on, it's really the ones that are able to stand on their own 2 feet, that they don't need to have a specific console brand behind them, like you're saying, seems to be a successful route. They could have it, like Insomniac has the vote of confidence from PlayStation, right, of having their exclusives going there first. But that's not how I think of their games. First, I think of their games standing on their own. Ubisoft with the release of this Assassin's Creed game, which you're referencing a little bit. Like, I'm all in for that. I'm fully. I mean, I like Assassin's Creed, but there was a little bit of a, started to get a little dry. Like the games, I'd still play them and still always had like my fun, but
Right.
I could see where the appeal was starting to get a little dry. I think something like this is gonna reinvigorate the fandom, and this is just purely based on the cinematics we've already have, and there's something about it that just feels like fun and like different and refreshing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you and I were talking about it earlier, how
Yeah.
people have been asking for this like 5, 6, 7 years ago for this thing, and they're doing it now. But with the power of next gen, these games are not known for being obviously the most graphics intensive, but I'm just saying, like, with the power of next gen, you take like the things that worked with Black Flag, and you take the things that worked with like Odyssey and etc., and it's only going to get better. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, man, I'm very optimistic about where we go as we're going into the end of this year. We're looking at this year. We're making predictions 2025.
Right.
It's no separate conversation, separate podcast to have. But I thought last year was a really big year for gaming. But this year, it's not that it's a really big year, it's just a very solid year if you really think about it.
Right. And yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think this year is gonna, like, some of the games that came out early this year are gonna have a tail, right? Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, well, let's go into Square Enix, right?
Yep.
So, uh, Square's saying that the revenue's down, and they're going to refocus their strategy and do more PC and Xbox releases just to compensate for for those shortcomings, right? Okay. Here's what they're not telling you, right? Um, Out of all they released, I think it was a total of 36 games. 9 of those were Switch exclusives. 6 were
Yeah.
PlayStation exclusives, and then the rest were multi-platform. So to say, and this is to Xbox fanboys that are out there, it's like, oh, Square's going away from PlayStation because they're not making any money. Really, really, like that's your W. Like that's your W, right?
It's not it.
It's not it. It's not. That's not the W you think it is, right?
No.
This is Square. I I'm shocked that Final Fantasy 16 is still not out on PC. Like that game should have come out on PC if you ask me, like day one. Um, I can guarantee you, with how well that game reviewed, even though it's not my favorite Final Fantasy, it being on PC, it would have compensated for some of the shortcomings. Um, I can see, and I know that Rebirth is probably going to be on PC either end of the year next year. I don't think Part 3 is going to be on Xbox. Like, I don't think Rebirth. I don't think Rebirth. Let me correct that. I think that the trilogy is going to come out on Xbox a year after the third part is released. So probably in another 4 years. I don't think this game is going to be on Xbox anytime soon.
Interesting.
16, I can totally. There's already an agreement in place. It's not going to happen. But but going forward, right? Whatever they do next, that may be on Xbox, and that's fine, right? That was their strategy during the 360 years, um, and even during their PS4 years, there really wasn't, like, other than Nier, and Nier came out on Xbox eventually. Uh, there wasn't really a big Square Enix game that was a PlayStation exclusive. So, um, that was their strategy before. Like again, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that 16 didn't come out on everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know why. Like you're right. It's like maybe, yeah, PlayStation go ahead and got the exclusivity rights for it, and that's great. But that game should have come out on everything, and then keep 7 on PlayStation. That should have been I think a more business, a wiser choice at the end of the day. They're doing fine. Square Enix has always been known for, like, being crybabies. Like, remember when this one, Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal game, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone loved it. Sold really well. Oh,
I
that
gotta
game
pick it up still.
underperformed. That thing underperformed. And that game sold really good. I have
Yeah.
it. It's a great game.
Expectation.
So yeah, Square Enix expectations are always ridiculous, that right, and that's why this news to me, this is like non-news almost, with the exception that they're going to refocus, and that's fine, right? But it's not like they're like losing money. It's just that
No.
they didn't make as much money as they wanted.
right.
That's the difference, right? Yeah, Square's fine. They're just, they should have. I think that Foam Stars was dumb, and they should have just refocused their efforts into something else. But
Yeah.
now I'm really enjoying and enjoying Rebirth, and that it's gonna be great. So they're totally fine. I'm not gonna be missing out on anything that they're doing. Like, if you're a Square fan, you're not gonna miss out. It's gonna be on everything, and it doesn't matter to me. It's fine, right? Again, that was the case back in PS3, PS4 days. I don't care. Enjoy it. Now, that said, Joel, I did went and started looking for some stats and
Okay.
sales stats. Final Fantasy 15, more precisely. It was like a 4-to-1 ratio, PS4 versus Xbox, when it comes to
Whoa.
sales, right? So
Same availability
Same-
choices of the
Right.
consumer.
exactly. So You do have the choice, right? But say, you know, if they could have sold an extra 250,000 copies of 16, that would have been a win, right? That's pretty good. And if the cost of development, doesn't surpass that, that's fine, right?
Right.
And with like architecture now being basically the same thing for both consoles, they can probably just focus on development for PS5 and then porting over, and that's fine. That's going to work out just fine, right?
Right.
On the Switch is a whole different story, right? It's like, oh, they did put out the other seven game, friggin' Crisis Core. Crisis Core came out on everything. Came out on Xbox and it came out on Switch too. So, you know, it's just Square Enix are just being crybabies. It's like Xbox fanboys. They're done with PlayStation. They're not done with PlayStation. It's just that they want to expand their reach.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and that's totally fine, right? Um, and yeah, you know, Square is fine. They're just, I think that what's going on at Square is a little bit more political than what they
Sure.
make you think, right? Because the CEO made some weird moves closing uh or selling IDOS um and then letting franchises go, and then saying that they're gonna spend a lot of money on like NFTs, like the biggest scam in the world, right? So I still stand by it. It's a freaking scam. So, invest, like, putting their money on NFTs, and now like, hey, no one wants this. What do we do? So, yeah, anyhow, they're fine. They're not gonna go anywhere. All right. Big news from PlayStation. Um, we finally got the successor to Jim Ryan, and I think I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. So Herman Hulst is gonna be they're gonna is gonna it's gonna be co CEOs, right? Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino are gonna be the guys in charge. Herman Hulst is gonna be in charge of the studio and creative section, and Nishino's gonna be in charge of hardware and relationships. This is a great play. Um, Herman Hulst is the right person for the job. He's a creative. He's been there for a long time. Uh, you know, Decima Engine, Horizon, Killzone, and all the other stuff that he's worked on. Right. That I'm really happy for him. Like, well liked, well respected guy. Right. This is great news. Nishino, he's probably gonna be the guy that's gonna be wrangling back everyone,
Yeah.
and I think that's good. We said it. Like, you look at what's going on Xbox. No one's there to wrangle Phil
Right.
Spencer back, and
Right.
everything's going.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. That you need someone to wrangle back the
Some might say
creatives.
Jim needed that a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah.
This
Jim,
is maybe a step in the right direction.
no, totally, totally. I agree. I agree. But just yeah, I think this is great. Um, I think that PlayStation. I missed my prediction that they were going to made some big acquisitions. I don't think it's the right time for them. I don't think it's the right time for anyone to be making any acquisitions at all right now. And they should just manage, and maybe that's why Nichino is there, because they need to manage those relationships with the third parties, which is like part of what unfortunately Xbox had a big problem with, and they ended up buying all the third parties.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, we don't get along, huh? Well, I'm gonna buy you. So and that clearly it's not working. Clearly it's not the right thing to do. Clearly, there's glaring issues with that. But yeah, real. I'm good with this, right? And yeah, we'll see. Summer we're gonna find out what the plan is for I guess the pro um and games for the rest of the year because they're saying that allegedly nothing's coming out, but apparently there's no games, Joel. I don't know if you heard,
Come on, come
but
on.
yeah, how do you feel about this?
No, I was very skeptical, not skeptical in a bad way. Just more like I should say cautiously optimistic. Sony's been on such a good route, clearly not making drastic changes to their business models. Maybe on like a marketing side, when Jim came in, he had a different way of how he did things with the release of PlayStation 5, etc. But overall, they've been, I think, as a company, you could say they've been in good hands and in a good light and running in the right direction. So whenever you have two new people brought in, you have to be hoping that it's on the right. That doesn't mean automatically they're good because the company's in a good place. Anyone can be the person who's the undoing of the success. And so, they have a tall task in front of them to really just keep on with what the vision was before. I'm sure they are taking a route right now of we have to jump in and just keep the strike the iron while it's hot. But I'm also sure that they have had numerous amounts of conversations in the process of being elected into this type of position, however you want to phrase it, that they probably know, look, this is a big opportunity. Don't screw this up. I don't have any expectations of it, but I'm just saying, like, this is a big deal. This is a big deal
Yeah,
considering at the height. This is one of those moments that we can look back to and say everything's fine, everything's good. We talk about 4 or 5 years from now, we're moving into the next generation of PlayStation, and what these guys did during the timeline of PS5 and the games that are coming out, they let the ships run smoothly and developers do what they're doing and really just empowering a great experience and sleeping on that, or they could be the people who try something drastically different. There's been no
right.
expectation, nothing being said that makes me worried, but I'm very cautious, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think again, Herman Hulst, he has a really good relationship with a lot of
Yeah.
developers like Kojima and you know uh, the guy at Insomniac. I think it's a great choice, and Nishino's been around the company for a while too, a long time. So I think this is probably like almost like a best case scenario at this point for
Okay.
them, right? And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah. Not, and it's funny because like I think about it, right? Is it's when you compare it to Xbox, and I know that Xbox leadership like it hasn't really changed that much since Don Matrick was like
Yeah.
um, but you know, uh, if I know that people like Phil and especially Xbox guys, and he's always been a suit, right?
Yeah,
He's a gamer,
I
but
like Phil, but I don't like Phil. I mean,
right, especially now, like not now it's kind of weird, right?
now it's weird.
Yeah, the thing with Phil, right, and I I don't think that he is like, hey, yes, I like evil.
No,
He's
no,
like
no.
like Mr. Burns, but he's like, trying to be nice out there with the fans. Um, but it's he's well intended, but I think his intentions are misplaced, and we'll talk about more Xbox here in a minute, but um just going back to PlayStation real quick, they had their revenue call. Um, the revenue rose, but they did miss the sales target, and they are projecting that PS5 sales are going to be in a decline, and hence a Pro or a mid gen refresh, however you want to call it, right? That's why that thing's probably going to come out this year.
Yeah.
because they gotta inject some. Uh, they gotta keep the momentum going, right? They're not doing bad; they're still doing really good.
No, yeah.
Um, but it's getting to the point, right? The 4 year, it's they're at what 60 million PS5 sold, right? I think I
Crazy.
sent you the figure on the notes if I'm not wrong. Let me check the Discord notes here,
I'm
sir,
checking it
sir,
myself.
sir. Oh, I probably didn't send you the right notes, sir. Oh
See
man,
the sales numbers, but I don't see the unit.
right. Um, let's go check here real quick. Do an on the fly check.
Yeah, live fact checking
Live
with
fact
no
check.
load time.
Right, right.
We don't say crazy things without backing it up.
Nope. Right. Absolutely, sir. Let's see. We are looking at sales. There's Europe. No lifetime sales. Let's see. Come on. Fact checking on the fly. Kind of stinks, but we got to do it. We got to give you
I
guys the
mean,
right
no matter
information.
what, they're we know it's a good number. It's uh they're
Right. Let me go. Let me check VG charts. They probably have a at least a ballpark number that I can use. And yeah, it's around 59,
okay.
around 59 million.
Yeah.
They're putting Xbox around 30. But here's what's really hey, okay, let's go into the concerning part for Xbox. There was the Daniel Ahmad, the director of research and insights at Nico Partners, said that the PS5 shipped 4.5 million units last quarter, according to estimates. This is 5 times more than Xbox Series X and S shipped on the same period. Are you telling me that Xbox shipped less than a million consoles in the last sales period, dude? That is concerning.
So that's not a good number.
That is very, very concerning, dude.
Not good.
And that's not. You go to Target and there's piles of Xboxes, right? That's
Oh yeah.
um, that's a huge concern, right? I know, and again, unless you're the Switch, where sales never go down, and even the Switch is kind of like, they already plateaued. What they're getting is, you know, it's extra. Um, but I can see the PS5 if they release a mid-gen console, right? Because that's what fanboys care about is consoles, right?
Right.
So if they release a mid-gen console, I can see them hitting 80 in the next year, which is almost PS3 numbers. Which at that point you can call it a W, right?
Right.
Um, Xbox on the other hand, man, if they can reach 40, that's and this goes. Here's what's crazy, Joel. This is actually. I remember a few months ago we were talking about this, and I remember mentioning that I heard somewhere that the Xbox, the Series X and S sales were actually like lagging behind Xbox One sales on the
No
same
way.
period. Yeah, and they are.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
That's weird.
Which is again
The
really
one?
weird because Game Pass was already out when it came out. It's much better hardware.
Correct.
Um, People just
We-
lost interest, right?
I would say that's a sign of like bad faith. Like there's a lack of
Right.
excitement and trust in the brand.
Yeah, yeah. Really concerning. So yeah, that's basically the PlayStation news, right? They're doing fine, and they're projecting like they're within the projections, right? They missed they
Yeah.
missed the mark a little bit, but um, kind of to be expected when I mean, it's great. Like they got great games out there. Like they do have the software. I think that PS at the end of the day, like as a product, PS Plus like premium is not as good as Game Pass, but when you look at the business overall, right? And here's where we can probably just start going into Game Pass and Xbox. When PlayStation's not out there saying, "Yeah, go to PlayStation, buy a PlayStation so you can get PS Plus Premium." They're saying buy a PS5 so you can play God of War and Spider-Man and Final Fantasy and all this stuff. Oh, plus we got all this other stuff that you can add to your PlayStation. Versus Xbox, it's like buy an Xbox so you can get Game Pass. That's the difference right there. And that's the difference that a lot
They
of people
lose money on Game Pass. You kidding me?
probably.
Dude, the amount of money you spend on that annual subscription versus buying games straight out,
Yeah.
like that,
And that's the
developers
thing
can't
with
be happy.
and that's the thing with a plus extra and premium, right? There's
Yeah.
like no day ones. If you want retro, you gotta go premium, which is like a ton of money now because they went up. Uh, Again, because they know that they cannot sustain it. Game Pass has been $10 for years, dude. That thing is unsustainable, especially when you have 34 million or whatever subscribers at $10. Dude, I paid $10. Disney Plus is $10, and they have 134 million, and they just made money, and they don't have to buy content because their content is theirs.
Yeah.
Game Pass, they have to buy content to put it on the platform.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's a hidden cost.
And, you got to pay for infrastructure, storage, you know,
Support.
downloads, support, you know, data center, cloud infrastructure. You got
Which
to,
I mean, Microsoft has it. Let's be real. Of all the
Microsoft
people
has
that
it,
do
right?
Microsoft's
Right.
fine.
It's right. But it costs money. Like,
Oh, for sure.
You gotta, like,
So
that's
that
not,
the
you own it, but it's not free. It's like your car,
right.
right? You own
No,
your
no,
car,
no,
but it's not free. You still got to change your
no.
oil and put gas on
Right.
it.
The suits are still looking at like the maintenance costs and these things, and they're going, "Hold on a second, that's
Right.
expensive."
Right. And that's where Game Pass is struggling right now. And if Xbox or if Xbox wants to be the Game Pass console, that's totally fine. But you gotta make Game Pass profitable. And with that amount of subscriptions that you have right now, the only way to make it profitable is to put Game Pass as like $25 or something. Are you telling me, dude? Spotify is $10. It doesn't cost as much to make an album that it costs. Some dude in a basement can make an album for free, like with like Audacity and a couple of like free apps and a microphone. A game costs millions of dollars, thousands of
Yeah.
hours to make,
Yeah.
right? And you're charging the same as Spotify. It's unsustainable. Like for Game Pass to be, for Microsoft to be able to, if Game Pass is going to be their crutch, Game Pass has got to be like at least $25 right now.
Right.
$25. It sounds crazy, right? But if it keeps the platform alive, you got to do what you got to do. And I think that's something that PlayStation realized real quick when they released Extra and Premium. And like 8 months later, they goes like, "Hey, yo, we gotta up these prices." And they had to do it, and they did it early, right? People complain about it. Yeah, we all complain. I complain about it.
Oh, for sure.
So kind of like a trash move there, Sony. But when you think about it, when you're level headed and you can think about these things, it's like you got to do what you got to do to keep your business afloat, to make money, right? You can't just keep, and then it's like, and now it's like this whole like Xbox like fan. I'm not saying everyone is like this, right? But it's like Game Pass or Get Out. It's like if it's not on Game Pass, I'm not gonna play your game. If it's not on Game Pass, I'm not gonna buy your game and support it. Like there's a huge
That's
faction like that, dude. And
that's toxic towards the developers, man.
yes, yeah. And and that who's to blame?
Phil,
Phil.
that's Phil.
Because he's been out there saying Game Pass and Game Pass, Game Pass, and there's gonna be Game Pass, and they want Game Pass and this and this. And now if the game's not on Game Pass, people are not gonna care about it.
Remember the whole famous one about like the military and people like not having internet access and
Don
saying
Matrick.
like the metric thing,
Yeah.
dude.
If you if you don't have internet, we have a product for you. It's called the Xbox 360.
Right. It's like
I still remember.
I still remember that. It kind of makes me feel like the same thing with Game Pass. Like, oh, if you don't have the internet,
Right, right.
it's
So
just most people are gonna
how do you
have.
want
But it's
people to play, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
we're not necessarily talking about the military. It's
No, no, no.
like what about people like in countries that don't have the infrastructure?
Correct.
Like I don't know, like Brazil. How
Yep.
do you handle Brazil? How do you handle like uh, other other Latin American countries that don't
Totally.
have that infrastructure to download 100 gig game or whatever, and that'll take days.
Get a PlayStation.
You can buy the disc, yeah,
You
but you
know,
don't have based on the rumors, you don't have that the next iteration of Xbox is not gonna have a disc at all.
ooh, which
And
I saw that coming. You and I
yeah,
talked about it.
and then you get Sarah Bond saying during the Nothing press conference that they did, the Nothing podcast that one time, saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have like the mid, that we're working on the next console and it's gonna be the most powerful, the biggest leap ever in any console in history or whatever." But then here's the Switch with like PS3 graphics, like outselling you like 10-1, dude. It's like, what are you doing, guys? It's like you got to realize that this is not about the power. At this point, it's not about the power. It's about the content. It's content
Right.
that's selling, right?
Right.
And PlayStation, they announced this week too that they're refocusing instead of on sales. They're focusing on playtime and retention, and that's great, right? Microsoft is in a good spot when it comes to that because they have they have Minecraft, Call of Duty. They got games that have a very high retention, but it is just so frustrating, man. And I said this before. I said it when the Activision thing. They should have stopped at ZeniMax.
Hmm.
They should have stopped at Bethesda, right? And then they should have rolled it, right? And I'm sure that they would have been fine. But now with they have Activision, and they not only they're only buying Call of Duty, they're buying the baggage, right? And that baggage is affecting Bethesda Studios. And they announced today that they're making a new AAA studio in Poland. The Activision is opening up a studio in Poland, but this is a brand new studio. We probably won't hear anything for at least 4 years, right? It's like
Yeah.
what again? This is not the W that you think it is, right? It's like it's fine, it's great, right? But I don't think this is a big of a deal as you're making it to be. Um, yeah, I'm concerned, and the thing with the Activision acquisition was that Xbox was fine, like they were not selling great back then even, but they were fine. But the moment you spend that amount of money, like they spent for Activision, the largest acquisition in history, right? The board's going to be looking at you. It's like, yeah, where's the return on that investment that you made? And so now you're having the board on top of you. It's like, hey, what's up with this,
Totally.
right? And if you don't, if you're not quick to return that investment, they're gonna take over your division, and then they're gonna milk it like they milk every other division, right? Um, just to put some context, right? Xbox, if it wouldn't have been for Activision, they would have been down, like in a negative for the year. When all other Microsoft divisions operate at like a 33% revenue rate, they were like under, and they were able to be over because now they got Call of Duty, and then they got Candy Crush and all this, you know other stuff that they purchased. So, but at the same time, now you have the board pressuring you, and it gets too big. Xbox went from a few hundred employees to like 30,000 employees within like 5 years with all the acquisitions. Something's gonna happen, right? Something's gonna happen, and the board's gonna get you. Someone's gonna get you. I don't know. It's it's a tough spot to be in, right? But it's a self-inflicted wound too. Like if you think about it, and again, I don't think Phil is it's a bad person. I think
That's
that
what I said. I like him, but
I
I
don't.
also don't. But I also don't like him because of what he's done to the industry. What he's like, it's weird.
Yeah, they disrupted the industry in a negative way,
Yeah,
and now you know
people's jobs, and it came across like they didn't care.
yeah, it's annoying, right? And that's when you're encouraging your fan base to be like, oh yeah, like be soldiers for your platform or whatever. They don't need to be doing this, Joe. They don't need to be out there with like, hey fans, let's do the thing. That's that's why you gotta get see that's why you get community engagement people,
Hmm.
not the CEO. Like like we like
Yeah,
we work in
we
an
know.
industry. We work in an industry that works with fan engagement. There's people for that, right? Yeah, the CEO out there like engaging, like directly, you know, every once in a while, right?
Sure,
But
it'd
not
be connected
not
to everything,
not all not all the no no not
not the
everything
only
is like,
voice, not the sole voice.
exactly, and I think that's what the problem's been with Phil, and I think that they should have invested in a community engagement team, and have him be the CEO that he needs to be,
Yeah,
and focus on the business and stop playing Fallout. It's like it's like stop playing Fallout and focus on the business, right? I think that you got more important things to do than play Fallout at this point, right? Um, that's great. You can disconnect and play. That's awesome, right? But and I'm not questioning his work ethic, but again, I don't think he was. He did it. He did this out of spite. I think he wanted to win. He wanted to prove something. Unfortunately, he was wrong, right? And the way that he tried to prove it was the wrong way to prove it. And um, yeah, I think Game Pass, man. Like people are just like, oh, Game Pass is the future. Embrace it. If it's not on Game Pass, I don't care. That's a very toxic outlook for the industry, and it's awful. It's horrible, right? Um, Look at how disruptive this was um, for the music industry, and how streaming services disrupted the industry, right? Um, and now it's insane. Like if you're not touring, you're not making money. It's crazy because at
pretty
least
much.
before you can print some CDs and make some money out of that, but now if you're not touring, you're not making money. Honestly, like, and that's basically what's happening to the studios. Like, there's smaller studios like, oh, I don't want to put my game on Game Pass because we're gonna lose all this revenue. It's
Hmm.
like, well, if you're not gonna put it on Game Pass, then I'm not gonna play it. and it's crazy. It's an awful way to think um, about the industry that you love. Like again, I always said it. If you love something, support it. Like I don't buy a ton of Blu-rays anymore, but I go out and buy my if it's a good Marvel movie, I'll go buy it. If it's you know a movie that I liked, I go buy it. If it's a reissue of a movie that I liked from before, and even though it's on Prime, I'll buy it because that's something that I love and I support it. Right? If it's a game that I got on PlayStation Plus and I really enjoyed it, I'll just go out and buy the DLC for it. Right? Still, still support it in some way, and that's something that you can do on Game Pass too, right? If you're on Game, if you buy an Xbox and if you're 100% on Game Pass, the way you support the studios is buy their DLC, right? You're paying for your $10 a month thing, and being real cheapo, buy their content. Buy the skin, buy the extra tracks for the racing game, buy your expansion, buy your cameo characters from, an indie game that you like. Even for the Microsoft games, is like if you like Forza and they have a Hot Wheels expansion, buy the Hot Wheels expansion. That's how you support it, right? Put your money where your mouth is and not just do Game Pass and oh yeah, I'm done with this thing. Now off to the next game on Game Pass, and then that's it. So because that you're not really creating a community anymore. You just it's
It's like
disposable it's
Netflix.
disposable content.
Yeah, treating it like a Netflix route.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
On to
what
the
they
next,
want.
on to the
That
next, on to the
that
next.
that's what they
But it's
wanted.
like
The
it's like
Netflix of gaming, right?
quantity over quality, and there's a lot of issues there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you said it before. Like, there's like with Netflix, like
Yep. It's not it's
they
not
just
most of
start.
them aren't good.
Yeah, they started putting stuff out there like crazy, and yeah,
Hmm.
most of it is not good.
Yeah. Game
And
Pass, it's like, you got your games, it's watchable, it's playable, but like great ones that are like, "Oh my goodness, this game changed my life."
yeah,
We're looking for that. So, they can do it.
they can
Come
do
on,
it.
guys. Come
Yeah.
on, guys. All right.
Oh, totally. They can do it, and the fans can do it too, right? Again, put your money where your mouth is. Support not only support Game Pass, because Game Pass is like does the at the end of the day you're just paying for a server somewhere. You're not really paying for anything. There are not enough of you guys subscribed to Game Pass for it to actually make a dent on Microsoft, and pay all this indie games and Sega and all that. Like people that really care about the industry that are making stuff that are putting their stuff out on Game Pass. Um, buy their DLC, support it in other ways, right? If you really love it, buy the physical version. If there's no physical version, I don't know, buy it on PC. Like do something, right? Because at this point it's not sustainable. And it's gonna be your fault when, you know, it all goes down, right? And gaming has cycles, right? Like we saw this. I don't want to say that we saw this in '82 because '82 was a totally different scenario, right? People just got tired of it. They saw video games as a fad, and you know, it was the same thing with Atari. Atari kept putting everything that they could out there, and most of it was trash, and it ended up in a landfill, ironically enough, right?
Hmm.
But it's and that's why it crashed, right? But then we get cycles, right? And the industry picked up, it did great, and then there was a disruption in the '90s, and the disruption was PlayStation. So PlayStation came in, they disrupted the industry, and you know Sega got kicked out. Nintendo wasn't the same powerhouse as it was during the '90s. Um, and then they disrupt again with PS2. GameCube didn't sell very well. Xbox attempted to be a disruptor at that point. They were to some extent because they ended up putting the nail in Sega's console coffin, but they weren't. the Xbox 360 was a disruptor because then you get Sony back. They put Sony on the ropes. What are we doing? Nintendo's still on the ropes, but then here comes Nintendo again and disrupts a year later with the Wii. So it keeps going, right? And then everything was fine up until like, you know, the I want to say that the dark period was like 2009 to like 2013 when we really didn't get like it was iffy. Those years were iffy. We still got good games like the Arkham games. I don't know. Last of Us. We would get a game like that every once in a while, but it really wasn't right. And then it was fine. The PS4 generation that went back to like the PS2 years, where Sony was the dominant force, right? And Xbox was here doing their thing, and they were fumbling, and we all know the story, right? Nintendo came out with a Wii U, the biggest flop since the Virtual Boy. But then they course corrected in the most aggressive way possible, and course correct they did. Like they are doing phenomenal even right now with the Switch. I'm sure that they'll do really, really well with the new version when it comes out. And yeah, Game Pass. I don't know, man. If you love a game, support it. Not just play it on Game Pass. Like straight up support it. That's my advice to like anyone that has Game Pass that wants the industry to thrive. You gotta support it. Not just play it on Game Pass. So put your money where your mouth is. That was good. And my brain's fried. But yeah, man, I don't know if we want to add anything else. We want to wrap it up, and then we'll come back. And we got Summer Game Fest and more stuff coming up in next month. So hopefully we can find some time, Joel, and do a stream.
Yep.
Maybe have some fun.
So.
Yeah. We'll work something out. But yeah, man, we'll definitely keep you guys informed. And again, this is our opinions. Opinions are out there, right? And that's totally fine. Sure. We want everyone to succeed because competition moves innovation forward, and we don't want things to be stagnant. We want everyone to move forward in their own way. But we can't pretend that Game Pass is the end all be all at $10 a month. That thing's gotta go up to like $25 at least to be able to offset the cost of content and operations. It's the reality of it, right? It's numbers, right? It's math. So that's what I got, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for sticking with us for today's episode. We want to invite you to stay subscribed. We're on podcast platforms of your choice, places like Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon Music. Find us and subscribe to the show there. You also can write a review on those platforms. That would really help us out. Additionally, if you would subscribe to the video version on the No Load Time YouTube channel, that's No Load Time on YouTube. You can subscribe and watch videos, clips, write us a comment, like them. It would really help us out as well. Additionally, you can follow us on social media at No Load Time. That's at No Load Time, Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, X. We're out there. If you're watching on the video version, you'll see those handles down below. Additionally, we would invite you, as we were talking about a little bit earlier at the start of the show, we are on Patreon, and we would love to have your support. If you would kindly consider supporting our show so we continue to grow and do more, we'd really appreciate it. No Load Time, patreon.com/No Load Time. That's patreon.com/No Load Time. And last but not least, if you have a question, comment, or feedback, you can email us noloadtime@gmail.com. That's noloadtime@gmail.com. And potentially what we may even do is discuss what you send in on a future episode. Thank you all so much for sticking with us, and we look forward to being with you next time.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe. We'll see you again next time.